Okay, most of today's stuff is going to be a review because we covered a lot of this when we did triangle similarity. But today we're going to extend some of those topics to triangle congruence. Okay, and then the first thing we're going to talk about with regards to triangle congruence is similarity statements. Let me get this at a good level here. All right, so first thing to cover is similarity statements. Congruence statements. We've done similarity statements before, that's why that was in my head. And a congruent statement works almost exactly the same way. So if I have two triangles that are congruent, as these two are, ABC and DEF, the way that I write a congruent statement for those two triangles is like this. ABC is congruent to DEF. So when it's written that way, the letters correspond with each other in the same order. So angle A and angle D have to be congruent. Angle B has to be congruent to angle E. And angle C has to be congruent to angle F. And then likewise, side AB is congruent to side DE. And then BC is congruent to EF, and AC is congruent to DF. Okay, and then notice those sides, the letters line up also. So side AB, that's the first two letters in that triangle. That's congruent to DE, which is the first two letters in the second triangle. Okay, BC, the second two letters, is congruent to EF, and those are the second two letters. And then AC is congruent to DF. All right, that should sort of be review. It's just like a similarity statement. The only difference is this thing right here in the middle. That's a congruent sign instead of a similar sign. All right, what kind of questions might you get asked on here? Well, one is to write the congruent statement. And notice that there's other ways to write this congruent statement that are also true as long as the corresponding letters go in the same order. So this one would also be true. BCA is congruent to EFD, or CAB is congruent to FDE. Okay, you can put the letters of the first triangle in whatever order you want. You just got to make sure that whatever order these ones are in, the second triangle, those are in the same order. All right, so now what might be some questions that you'll have on your assignment, your first assignment for today? Well, one might be to just mark a set of triangles based on the statement. So if I'm given a statement like triangle, I'll just do one that's the same as we just did, triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. And let's say that's triangle ABC. And this is triangle DEF. Okay, I just sketched a couple of triangles here. It's really hard to tell from the way that they're turned which one corresponds. And it might be tempting to say, oh, well, C and D are both down here, but that's not what this statement says. So this one says angle A would correspond with angle D, which would mean this angle corresponds with that angle. B corresponds with E, so B corresponds with E. And then C corresponds with F. Okay, then AB corresponds with DE. BC corresponds with EF. And then the third one has to be the third one that corresponds with each other. Okay, so you might get asked to mark two triangles based on the statement. And then you might be asked to name, just based on the statement, what would correspond with what. And here's how that might work. So you might get a statement that said this: ABC is congruent to DEF, and then it asks something like, angle C is congruent to which angle? Well, if it's angle C, that's the last letter, so it has to correspond to angle F. And if it said side CA is congruent to what side? Well, if I look up here, CA is the first and last letter, so that would mean that has to correspond to DF or FD, if you like to keep them in the exact same order, which I do. Okay, so that's congruent statements. Now let's talk about actual questions having to do with whether two triangles are congruent or not. And again, this is going to be a little bit review because we did this with triangle similarity. So you probably, hopefully, remember back when we did triangle similarity, there were things like side angle side and side 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 and side side side, side angle side, and angle angle. Okay, those things all still exist. So triangle congruence rules. Okay, so we don't have angle angle. That only works for similarity. But we do have the other ones. Angle, side, 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 and side, angle, side. Okay? Those we've already done. In addition to those, for triangle, angle, side, sorry, angle, side, angle is an additional one. So that's one that works here for triangle congruence that we didn't need for similarity because this would already be angle angle. Okay, so then a question might be like, tell if two triangles are congruent, and if so, what rule is it that makes them congruent? So, for example, if I have two triangles like this, and let's say these are marked this way. Okay, well I know two of the triangles, or sorry, two of the sides of the triangles are the same, but then they also share this third side. So I could mark that that side is the same in both triangles. So this would be an example of where in both the triangles I have three sides marked. So these would be congruent by side, side, side. Okay, what might like side angle side look like? Okay, let's say I have these two triangles, that angle's marked, and then those sides are marked. All right, that's an example of side angle side. Two sides are the same, and the angle that's between the two sides is the same. Notice, this wouldn't be side angle side if it were this angle and this angle marked instead of the one that I already marked. Okay, so if it were those angles instead, that wouldn't be side angle side because the angle has to be between the two sides. Okay? Sometimes you might get one that doesn't meet any of the rules, and then you would just say, well, those aren't congruent. Like, for example, if this is what I had marked, well, in this triangle, this would be like side, side, angle, or angle, side, side. Whereas over here, I have three sides marked, so the only thing that could be was side, side, side. And these two things just don't match up with each other. Therefore, those two things are not congruent. Okay, I think that gives you enough to be able to work on the assignment for today. I am definitely going to assume that you'll have questions that we can go over when I am back next class period, but just do the best you can.